Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of a 3-part video series, Fitness Secrets for Fat People by a Fat Person, the fat person being me. If you missed the first video, I'd recommend going back and checking it out. We talk about consistency and why it's so important and some of the pitfalls people run into. In this video, we're going to be talking about the second most important principle in any training or diet plan, which is overload. And very simply put, overload means doing more than you have done previously. Regardless of what your fitness goal is, you have to do more than you have done previously. Whether it's getting bigger, stronger, running faster, being better at a sport, there has to be some type of overload, and you have to be pushing yourself and doing more than you've done before. The issue that a lot of people run into is they increase intensity too fast, or they do it for too long a period of time without drawing back and giving their body a chance to rest and recover from the overload. Because the overload is a stress to our body, and that overload stress causes an adaptation, and that's what makes us better, when our body adapts to that stress. So when we are overloading, we are stressing ourselves. And it's a good stress, it's a productive stress, but at some point we will need to give our bodies a chance to recover. So just to give you an example of somebody inappropriately applying overload to their training and increasing intensity too fast, if you're running 3 times a week and you're running 1 mile, and you stop making progress, so you want to run a couple more days a week so that you can continue to make progress, an inappropriate application and an unnecessary and unproductive application of the idea of overload and doing more would be from going from 3 days a week running 1 mile to every single day running 5 miles. See, when you overload the body, we give the body a stress, and that stress is important because our body adapts to that stress, and that's how we get better with that adaptation. So that adaptation might look like we have better cardiovascular endurance, or we have bigger, stronger muscle, or whatever, but it is a stress. And so we need to give our body time to acclimate and recover from the stress. So if we go from 3 days a week running 1 mile, our body is getting used to that stress, it's making adaptations, and we're slowly getting better. But if all of a sudden we dump a ton of new stress on the body by running every single day for 5 miles, for most people that's probably going to be too much. You're going to start to be overly fatigued. You might get some knee pain, some ankle pain, whatever it may be, and it's going to stunt your long-term progress because it's too much too soon. So if you are running 3 times a week, 1 mile, an appropriate use of overload would be to go to 4 times a week for 1 mile. Or maybe you could stay 3 days a week and you could run 1.5 miles or 1.25 miles or whatever it may be. So you overloaded, you're doing more than you did before, but you added a very small amount of overload. You didn't add so much that your body can't adapt to it and can't recover from it in a reasonable manner. The same thing goes for strength training or hypertrophy training. If last week you did 170 pounds for 3 sets of 8, it's probably not reasonable, and it's definitely not a good long-term expectation for you to say, okay, next week I did 170 last week, so next week I'm going to do 190. That's a 20-pound jump. Instead, if you did 170 pounds for 3 sets of 8 last week, do 175. Do 178 the week after that. Or 180, and so on and so forth. So whatever type of training you're doing, overload slowly. Increase the amount that you're doing and increase the intensity at which you do it with very slowly. As a very general guideline for beginners, increasing intensity should happen in phases of probably 3 to 6 weeks. So if you're lifting weights and let's say you're going to increase 5 pounds on the bar every week to what you did the week prior, do that for about 6 weeks, maybe a little less, but 6 weeks is probably a good place to start. And then at the end of that 6 weeks, take what's called a deload, where essentially you might do weight that's around the same intensity, so you're using the same amount of weight on the bar, but maybe you're using a little bit less repetition, and maybe you cut out some of the additional exercises that you might do after the main exercise. And that'll give the body a chance to rest, but you will still be lifting so that you're not going to experience fitness decay and all the work that you did previous starts to go away. The same thing can be said for running. If you're going to take a week off and you are running the amount we talked about, 4 days a week for 1 mile, you don't necessarily want to take the whole week off and not do anything. But maybe you take two days off, but you still run 2 of the days and you still run your mile. So giving your body 1 week to kind of recover, pull back a little bit, so that you can come and attack training and continue to see progress in the weeks to come. If you try and overload in a linear pattern, meaning that it's just straightforward and it's never alterating at all, you're going to hit a wall and the likelihood for injury is going to go up and your long-term progress is not going to be what you want it to be. If you've ever seen a model of the stock market, it goes like this. So there are ups and there are downs, ups, downs, but the general trend is always going up. And that's a great way to think of our training. We're going to have days and weeks where the body is tired. It's tired of running, it's tired of lifting, and needs to recover. But if we take the time to go down, do a little less volume, maybe a little less intensity, then the body can recover from the stress that we're giving it, and then we can start to see the body adapt to the stress, and then we got stronger, we got in better shape. Now we can continue to train with intensity. If we just continue to load intensity and volume, the body doesn't have a chance to recover, and eventually the progress, while it may go up for a while, it'll start to look like this and kind of slowly work its way down. And obviously, we don't want that. The same thing can be said for dieting. We know that we need to reduce the amount of calories we're eating to lose weight, but if you're always reducing calories, you're eventually going to get to a point where you're going to be hungry all the time, your body's not functioning the way you need it to because you're not eating enough. And so you want to reduce calories, but there's going to be times where you plateau and you just maintain. Now obviously nutrition doesn't work the same way as training, but if we think about it in the same general idea of slowly increasing intensity instead of trying to do it really fast, it still applies. If you are eating 3,000 calories a day, let's say, and you want to lose weight, don't go to 1,000 calories a day. It's not necessary, and you're probably going to plateau and end up going back to binge eating with that extreme of a cut. You can see weight loss if you go from every day eating 3,000 calories to eating 2,800. Okay, it's a very small incremental reduction, but over a long period of time it builds up and you will see the weight loss. Now eventually you'll hit a plateau, you won't lose weight, and so you might want to maintain that for a while. But then you're going to want to subtract a little bit more calories. So you go from 3,000 to 2,800 to maybe 2,600, and so on and so forth until you've reached your goal. The name of the game is overloading very slowly and incrementally while giving your body opportunities to rest. That is the most important underlying principle. It's difficult to talk about how to implement overload appropriately in detail because everybody's situation is very specific to what their training looks like, what their goals are, and a bunch of other stuff. But hopefully that gives you guys a good idea of what to look for. If you're struggling to implement these ideas, I would encourage you to visit our website. We have coaching options available, and we can help you implement these principles that we talk about on the YouTube channel. There's no reason for you guys to continue to not make progress. The information that you need to be successful is out there. It's simply a matter of learning it and understanding how to implement it, and then doing that over a long period of time. So if you're struggling reaching your goals in the gym, go ahead and click our website link below, check out our coaching options, and we'd love to help you out. Stay tuned for the next video, where we'll be talking about the third principle in this three-part series. And if you like the video, please like the video and subscribe for more content. See you guys next time.